A woman accused of killing a couple in a hit and run is expected to accept a plea deal and be sentenced. Tonight, the emotional testimony given in court.
Spokane City Council looking to increase safety on one of the South Hill's most traveled streets, but tonight why some say it will hurt more than it helps.
A couple of days of near record heat and then its temperatures dropping as rain returns to the forecast.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM News at 5 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan.
It's good to have you here tonight. I'm Whitney Ward. We do start now with some breaking news. Just here in the last hour, a Spokane County judge sentenced the woman who killed two people in a hit and run on nearly 11 years in prison. So her name is Megan Skillingstad. She pleaded guilty to 2 counts of vehicular homicide and 1 count of hit and run. Investigators say the defendant hit and killed a couple while driving drunk on West Trails and Flint near Airway Heights last spring.
She initially pleaded not guilty to that crime back in May. Well, today Skillingstad changed her plea to guilty on all charges. The judge sentenced her to the mid-range of the standard sentence for the charges against her. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley sat in the courtroom for that sentencing today. She just left the courthouse and will share what families in the courtroom told the judge coming up a bit later in our show tonight.
In the meantime, the statue of John Monahan has stood in downtown Spokane now for more than a century, but a proposed ordinance in front of Spokane City Council could change that as soon as tonight.
People behind that effort say language on the statue is racist. KREM 2's Kyle Simchuk joining us live now with more on the effort. Kyle?
Yeah, hey Mark and Whitney, this is the John Monahan statue right behind me outside the Spokane Club. The statue celebrates a Spokane veteran, but some people say it also perpetuates racism and inflicts harm on the Spokane community. Now, the plaque on the statue refers to Samoan people as savage foes. According to the Spokane Historical Society, Monahan was in the first graduating class at Gonzaga University and the first person in Washington State to attend the Naval Academy. Monahan served as an officer aboard the USS Philadelphia, which destroyed native villages in Samoa as the U.S. fought the British to gain control of the land. Now, Monahan was killed by natives during one of those battles. His statue was dedicated in 1906, and it stood here in downtown Spokane ever since. The Spokane Human Rights Commission passed a resolution in 2022 in support of removing the statue, and last July, council members passed an ordinance. However, former Mayor Nadine Woodward vetoed it. So council members will vote on a similar ordinance tonight to establish a process for reviewing community concerns regarding monuments on city property. Now, if that ordinance passes tonight, it's unclear if this statue would be removed, relocated, or if the city would go in and change some of the messaging on that plaque. Tonight's meeting starts at 6 o'clock. We'll be keeping an eye on things and let you know what happens. Reporting live in downtown Spokane, Kyle Simchuk, KREM 2 News.
Kyle, thank you very much. Covering North Idaho, getting some prenatal services is going to be a lot easier in North Idaho. Providence and Northwest Specialty Hospital are teaming up to expand care for high-risk pregnancy in Post Falls. According to a press release, if a pregnancy is diagnosed as potentially high risk, the patient in Post Falls can receive care at Spokane's Providence High-Risk Pregnancy Clinic through telehealth services. In addition to high-risk pregnancy care, patients can also receive ultrasound monitoring, pharmacy services, and diabetes management programs.
The Coeur d'Alene School District is weighing several options to try and save an estimated $6 million. According to our news partners at the Coeur d'Alene Press, the district presented the board with a list of $9 million in budget cuts. Those include making school 4 days a week, closing an elementary school, larger class sizes, and staff cuts. The district says it's lacking the needed funding because of a drop in enrollment and unexpected expenses. Right now, they say they're developing a plan to try and manage the situation over the next few months. A special election is now underway. Voters in Spokane County should have their ballots in the mail. In fact, they should have received them by today.
This is an election that features mostly school districts with a few other items depending on which district or region you live in throughout the county. One item on the ballot is Spokane Public Schools bond. If approved by voters, the $200 million bond would replace 2 older schools in the district, Adams and Madison Elementary Schools.
Medical Lake, Meade, Central Valley, Cheney, and several other school districts in the county will also have bond measures and levies to be voted on during this special election. So we've got a few important dates for you to keep in mind. February 5th, that is the deadline to receive new registrations and voter updates online and by mail. Day of registration and voting in person will end at 8 p.m. on February 13th, which is Election Day.
All right, let's talk weather now. Very spring-like forecast to start the week. The sun is shining, even hit 50 degrees today.
It definitely felt like spring. Our chief meteorologist, Jeremy Legou, though, says winter's not quite over yet.
No, I'm trying to get you ready for the cool down that is going to make its way back, and it takes a while to get here. Seriously, a slow, steady decline drops us by 10 degrees by the time we hit the weekend, but even then our temperatures are above the seasonal norms, if that puts our warmth in perspective. Right now, still sitting in the 40s, 45 degrees after the sun went down. Incredible. That's all thanks to our ridge of high pressure overhead, strong southerly flow, and that clockwise motion in the atmosphere. So notice this, the arching. That's our high pressure, there are a ridge in the atmosphere. Notice the clockwise flow. That's our high pressure. That helps give us sinking air and clears out the clouds. The ridge helps warm us up. The southerly flow adds to it. And that's why we were so warm the past couple of days. Now we get cloud cover kind of working its way in. That comes ahead of our next round of moisture. Tomorrow, I think all that stays over on the west side. And then tomorrow evening, I think we wind up seeing some activity in north central Washington. Wednesday, we start out a little bit clear. We even see a little sunshine, and then scattered showers trickle in throughout the day. So Wednesday starts out sunnier than it ends, but it sets the stage for more widespread rain returning Thursday. But despite that, look at the next few days. 50 tomorrow, 52 Wednesday, 49 on Thursday, and our overnight lows stay in the upper 30s each day. It is going to be incredibly spring-like. This is seriously what we expect, say, March. This is March weather, but we are going to swing back to February weather, and we'll talk that coming up in the full forecast.
All right, Jeremy, thank you very much. And from a potentially season-ending injury to many of our local college basketball players receiving some big honors, there's a lot of sports headlines to get to tonight. So Mark is across the studio now to get us all caught up on that. Mark?
Charlize Ledger-Walker from WSU, the women's basketball player, suffered a knee injury that could be bad. We'll have more on that coming up in our 6 p.m. broadcast. Let's stick with the Cougs, though, and standout freshman Miles Rice, who picked up yet another Pac-12 honor. For the 4th time, Rice is the Pac-12 Freshman of the Week. Rice led the Cougs to big wins over Utah and Colorado. He scored 27 points, 8 assists in both games combined. Rice is now the Pac-12's top-scoring freshman. WSU's next game will be in Seattle when they take on the Huskies in the Apple Cup. Moving over to Gonzaga hoops and the WCC honors, both the men's and women's teams took home. Forward Graham Ike was named the West Coast Conference Player of the Week. In the Zags' tight game against San Francisco, Ike scored 22 points to lead GU to a 77-72 win. 2 nights later, Ike scored 20 points in their win over Pacific. Ike is the 3rd Gonzaga player to win WCC honors so far this season. Now to the GU women's. Yvonne Ejim won her 5th WCC Player of the Week honors. Ejim had 2 impressive double-doublers to keep the Bulldogs perfect in conference play and extending GU's win streak to 14 games. But despite both the women's and men's wins, AP Top 25 rankings not being kind to the Bulldogs, the men only received 4 points and remain unranked, while the women dropped 2 spots from 17 down to 19. By the way, the WSU women remain unranked despite upsetting number 2 UCLA.
All right, now still ahead here on KREM 2 News at 5. Dangerous chemicals in local water. Tonight, a community meeting on PFAS will be held in Airway Heights. And after the break, details on the professor who is expected to present his research on those forever chemicals. Plus, Spokane City Council expected to make changes to one of the South Hill's busiest roads. In just 8 minutes, the changes they're looking to make and the pushback from property owners.